Okay. We are told that ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi is live at one of our sister stations here. Perhaps you can get that link. Director, if you can get that link. There you have it. Speaking to one of our sister stations here. Party leader, that is Ingo FM, right?
During the general election, we have seen a lot of violence across the country, and most of the perpetrators are youth, politicians.
Musalia Mudavadi. Have you ever met Musalia Mudavadi before?
Yes, I have. And I remember my first engagement with him was at Bombers in 2017, when they were insisting that IEBC cannot declare presidential results. That was my first encounter with him, and it did not go very well. But that's a story for another day.
Yeah, so for another day, perhaps you can just take a listen of what he's saying there.
Presidential candidate. But I also want to shed some light that when you enter into a coalition and there are competing political parties, it's not a new phenomena to Kenya. Even if we just go back a little bit in Kenya's history, when Kenya saw the emergence of NAC, there were very many competing individuals who wanted that position. But ultimately, through consensus building, you will recall that the retired President Kibaki was then given the opportunity to be the flag bearer for then NAC. And yet there were many leading lights who were equally interested. When it came to the URP and TNA, again, there was consensus building amongst themselves, and they established what became as the Jubilee. Then subsequently, you will also recall there was CORD, and in CORD there were also competing Kenyan politicians from different parties, and they then made, through consensus building, they identified their candidate. The same followed when it came to NASA. I was part of NASA. In fact, at that time I've pushed for it, spearheading its formation. And there were competing interests, and after dialogue and consensus, we then settled on the presidential candidate for NASA in the last general election in 2017. So what is going on in the context of One Kenya is not a new phenomena. These are political parties propping up their candidates from their parties, and then in the process, through consensus building, a decision will be arrived at. But I want to say that I am confident, and that is why I've been moving around the country, and others are also moving around the country, selling their agenda, and at the appropriate time, provided we are operating within the confines of the IEBC deadlines for coalition formations, a candidate will be named. So there should be no panic, in my view.
And
Yes.
maybe in every electioneering period, youth have been the casualties of false promises, including creation of jobs. What you have for the youth if they elect as the president? And maybe, do you think Ruto is being dishonest to the youth? And maybe finally, the issue of health care for the Kenyans.
I think the first thing I want to, there's another point which you raised earlier, and I think I should deal with it. This is the emerging trends of political violence several months before the election itself. Not that we should have violence during the election, but this trend must be nipped in the bud. It must be halted by both the IEBC and the security agencies. Because when we keep on talking about reconciliation, bringing peace to the country, even when the challenge of the BBI was there, one of the key tenets of it was that because of electoral processes that are deemed not to be fair, free and fair. So we should as a country, and the security agencies should move very fast. Stop any prospects of either people trying to zone regions or trying to propagate violence so that they can intimidate other politicians. It is wrong. How will our women candidates campaign? And yet they have the constitutional and democratic right to campaign if violence is going to be the order of the day. How are the young people who are emerging and they want to enter into leadership going to campaign if violence is going to be there? And others. This thing must be stopped. We should not allow it to grow. And IBC must bring out its teeth. If any politician or political people are involved in the fomentation or fomenting violence at this point in time, they should be dealt with swiftly and decisively so that we can have a free and fair election across the board. We should win through the persuasion of our ideologies and not through intimidation or voter suppression. This is the message that I would like Kenyans to support me in. Every important institution, the churches, the religious bodies, the civil society, the young, the old, the middle-aged, they must all come out and say no to violence during this period and at any other time. That will undermine our economy. We should not allow it to happen. Now, the youth agenda, I want to say that we need to be very pragmatic. And I want to repeat that we are not, Kenyans are not in an economic classroom or lecture room. Kenyans are living through hard times. We are all facing the pressures of the high cost of living. We are facing the high prices of fuel. We are facing the high prices of electricity. We are facing high levels of unemployment. We are facing increasing difficulty in paying our medical bills. We are facing a situation where commodity prices, especially in the agricultural sector, are fluctuating to the detriment of the farmers. So this is a crisis. So we should not be talking about economic models. We should be asking ourselves, once you have diagnosed the problem, let us be practical and move to solve that problem. Do we have a public debt problem? Yes, we have a public debt problem. What do? We must stop digging the hole. We must make sure our parliament enacts the law that ANC has been pushing to make sure that public debt and how we contract it becomes more transparent. These things need to be dealt with directly. We will have to reschedule our debt and go for debt that is of lower interest rate. Now, why am I saying this? I'm saying this because the government is the biggest borrower, and it is borrowing to pay debt. So it is becoming a vicious cycle. And if the government is the one borrowing, then how will we create jobs out there? How will the young people, the youth, get money from the banks if the government is taking everything? And the statistics are there. I'll give you an example. Credit was said to have expanded, and this is the economic survey, by 18%. Now, 50% of that 18% is now being taken over by government itself. Only 9% has been going to the private sector. Surely, how are you going to grow the economy if all the borrowing is being taken by government? So these are fundamental issues that we must address. Cost of doing business. And when debts are high, that is when the taxation goes high. Hiyo tax kwa kodi kwa fuel, the one that has made fuel very expensive, it is not coming out of the blue. It is coming because there's a very heavy public debt. So the government is struggling to look for money quickly to deal with that. We must fight corruption. Now, if we deal with these things and manage ourselves properly, I am telling you, the young people will be all right.
And do you feel that campaigns have been modeled to convince the youth that indeed there is a...
Perfect. That is ANC party leader Musalia Mudavadi speaking live at our sister station, that is Ingo FM. And yes, he's talked about issue with the model, the bottom-up economy model that is being fronted by Deputy President William Ruto. As an economist, he was once a finance minister, and he has a lot of focus in terms of economic upbringing of this particular nation.